Hey there. I'm excited to announce this to you today. This is what you've been waiting for in your spiritual quest. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm finally ready to announce it that it's ready to go. It's the Grief to Growth Community Circle. Now, this is a sanctuary where like-minded souls are united in their journey through grief and towards personal transformation. It's more than just a place. It's a beginning. It's a commitment to growth and understanding. Here you're finding not just a community, but you're entering a circle of trust and depth. You're going to engage with interactive coursework. You'll dive into exclusive podcast episodes and partake in discussions that illuminate the path from mourning to empowerment. This is a realm where every question is honored and every individual's journey is validated. To be part of this exclusive circle, visit us at grieftogrowth.com/community or look for the chat icon at the bottom of every page on the main website. Remember that entry is a privilege because I want to ensure that every member is as dedicated and genuine as you are. You must apply to join, but the journey within is worth every step. So go ahead and join us today. Check it out, grieftogrowth.com/community, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Hi there. Welcome to the Grief to Growth podcast. Your host is Brian Smith, spiritual seeker, grief survivor, and life coach. Brian believes that the worst tragedies of life provide the greatest opportunity for growth. Brian says he was planted, not buried, and he's here to help you grow where you've been planted. In each episode, Brian and his guests will share what has helped them to survive and thrive. His sincere hope is that this episode helps you today.
On today's episode, I sit down with the founder and president of Helping Parents Heal, Elizabeth Boisson. I've known Elizabeth for a little over 3 years. Elizabeth has always got a smile on her face and always working tirelessly to help parents all around the world through her efforts with Helping Parents Heal. We met through a series of synchronous events that we get into a little bit with this episode, but we all know, all of us parents in Helping Parents Heal, that we were meant to be here. I hope this episode brings you some hope. Have a great day. And now, a brief word from our sponsor. When I decided I was going to do a podcast, I knew there were more moving parts than most people expect. How do you record a podcast? Where do you host it? How much will it cost? Do I need special software? How do I distribute it? All these questions were in my mind. I was all set to go with another podcast hosting company. Then I heard about Anchor. I believe that Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place. You can use it right from your phone or from your computer. Anchor is not only free, you can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Anchor's creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's Anchor, ANCHOR.FM as in FM radio. And now, back to our episode. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Grief to Growth. And today I'm fortunate to have with me Elizabeth Boisson. Elizabeth is the president and co-founder and the newsletter editor for Helping Parents Heal. Two of Elizabeth's children have transitioned, her daughter Chelsea in 1991 and her son Morgan in 2009, from severe altitude sickness while on a student trip to the base camp of Mount Everest in Tibet. Immediately after, Elizabeth created the Facebook group Parents United in Loss. Then in 2012, she joined forces with Mark Ireland to form Helping Parents Heal. Elizabeth is a certified yoga instructor and teaches yoga for healing grief. She's the affiliate leader of the Phoenix Scottsdale HPH group. So welcome, Elizabeth. Thanks for being here with me today.
Thank you, Brian. I'm really happy to be here.
And I want to tell everyone, I've known Elizabeth now for, it's hard to believe, but it's been 3 years. We met through a series of synchronicities, coincidences, et cetera. And Elizabeth got me involved in Helping Parents Heal. So Elizabeth, maybe you could start by telling me a little bit about why you started Helping Parents Heal and what the vision of Helping Parents Heal is.
Yes, I'd love to. And before I do that, I just want to say how fortunate we all are at Helping Parents Heal to have you, Brian. I agree that was a series of synchronicities, and it was amazing that it happened that way. And hopefully we'll be able to kind of talk a little bit about that a little later.
Sure, absolutely.
But I feel incredibly grateful that you have been leading the online group with Tracy and Beth and Ty, and it's grown to a group that has helped so many people. And thank you for doing that. And I consider you to be a voice of wisdom in every situation. So it's very fortunate to have you also heading up all of the conversation on the online group, which is really important as well as Tracy and Beth and Ty. But I just feel very grateful for all of that. And then I'd love to talk a little bit about how Helping Parents Heal started. Most people know a little bit about my story, about Morgan and his trip to the base camp of Mount Everest. Also, I did have my daughter transition, Chelsea, on January 21st of 1991. I had been in the hospital for 2 months on an IV to keep contractions from happening. And I finally lost my water, and I had to have her a week later. And by that time, her lungs were crushed. And so she was put on a ventilator. And she survived for 2 days and then transitioned. And it was incredibly hard. And I know that anyone who's experienced the passing of a child knows how difficult it is. But I had Morgan waiting for me at home, and I'd been away from him for 2 months. So being able to go home to him was such a gift. And he was the one who actually allowed me to move forward after that. Then in 2009, October 20th of 2009, Morgan also transitioned, and he did so at the base camp of Mount Everest, and his story is kind of incredible, and actually Chelsea's a part of that story as well. Would you like for me to tell that story?
It is an incredible story. I would like you to share it if you would, please.
Okay, wonderful. I'd love to. I always love talking about both of them. But I was fortunate after Chelsea transitioned to have 2 more girls, actually, Christine and Arix. And they're both beautiful. Arix is 26, Christine is 24. Morgan would be 30 this year. But when he was 20 years old, almost 21, he went on a student exchange program to Nanjing, China. And he had already gone 2 years before as a sophomore. He was a senior at the University of Arizona. He was also a cheerleader, which kind of plays into the story as well. And he was one of the most gregarious people that you'd ever meet. One thing that I don't talk a lot about is that when he was a sophomore, he participated in the pre-Olympic games in China, because the Olympics were going to be held in China, and it was for university students, and he was part of a team from Nanjing. And when he initially arrived at the Olympics, everybody kind of ignored him, but it turned out that he won shot put and came in first, and everybody then was just wanting to take pictures with him, wanting to be able to carry his things. It was so exciting for him. It was such a wonderful thing. And he was definitely an amazing athlete. He was 6'6" and 280 pounds, and played football in high school. And then he was a cheerleader at the University of Arizona. And anyway, when he went back his senior year, he was going on a trip to Hong Kong initially, and I was worried about the trip to Hong Kong because he had a visa that was a multiple entry visa, but I wasn't sure that he'd be able to get back. And so I told him that I really preferred, he was going to see some kids that actually had been on the program with him his sophomore year. But I said that was a little dangerous. Maybe he wouldn't be able to get back into China. And he said, "Mom, there's a trip that is going to Tibet, and there will be 13 students and 2 professors are going. Is it okay if I go on that trip?" And I thought, wow, what a great experience. What a wonderful way to learn about the Tibetan culture. And they've been studying it at the university at the time. And so we, of course, said yes. And they landed in Lhasa at 11,000 feet. Turns out the two professors didn't go. They had a Chinese tour guide with them and decided to go up to the base camp of Mount Everest the day after, which is way too quickly. You should never go up more than 2,000 to 3,000 feet in altitude a day. And they went up from 11,000 to 19,000 immediately. None of these kids knew anything about altitude sickness. And so as they were throwing up, as they were going up the mountain, as they were getting very dizzy, and they were actually urinating on themselves, nobody realized, and because of the fact that they were all kind of out of it, none of them realized that they needed to go back down immediately. The Chinese tour guide was pushing them up the mountain as quickly as possible because he wanted to keep to the schedule. And finally, when they got up to the top, Morgan took a few pictures. Actually, there's a picture of him with his arms outspread, and he did this in a lot of his pictures, but instead of having his arms outspread, his hands were down low, which kind of meant that I think the effects of altitude sickness were already setting in. And that's the last picture that we have of him. But he went to bed early that night. He took a Benadryl or a NyQuil because he didn't have any aspirin, and he had a terrible migraine, which is also a symptom of altitude sickness. And they were in a yurt, which is a big tent, and he kept getting up during the night, calling kids by the wrong names, showing that he was really disoriented. Mm-hmm. But everyone thought that it was because he was kind of sleepwalking. And at 9 o'clock the next day, when they were supposed to go down the mountain, they couldn't wake him up. And so, and he was actually foaming at the mouth. So one of the kids, his mom is a doctor, called his mom, and she said, get him down the mountain immediately. So all of them loaded him onto the bus. I mean, these kids, poor things, he's 280 pounds, and started down the mountain. And unfortunately, he stopped breathing during the ride, and they then stopped and took him off the bus to do CPR on him, although none of the kids really knew how to do CPR. And at that time, I got a call from the director explaining that they were having trouble and that Morgan was in danger. And he gave me the number of one of the kids on the program who was actually Morgan's roommate. And so I was able to call him. And when I reached him, I am so happy that he told me, Miss Boisson, it doesn't look good. I don't think we're going to be able to save him. And so I told Colin to put the phone up to his ear, and I told him that we loved him, that we were proud of him, and not to be afraid. And immediately when I did that, I felt him hug me. And I will preface that by saying I'm not religious. I've never really attended any church. I didn't have any beliefs about the afterlife at the time. I had been practicing yoga constantly in the days prior to that because I was going to be going through my yoga teacher training. But I believe that having that calm state of being at the time was one of the reasons that I was able to connect with Morgan the way that I did. At the same time.
I've heard you tell the story, many times. Every time I get goosebumps when you get to that part where you say that you felt Morgan hug you at that moment. And I was going to ask you, what do you think prepared you for that? Because to be as a parent and to get that call and to be as calm as you were and to be as accepting of your son transitioning at that moment, I mean, that's just amazing to me.
Well, I don't know if I was accepting at all, but I did understand that he was still with me. It was really a strange thing to all of a sudden understand that this is not it. That was that was what I took out of it immediately,
Yeah.
was that, oh my gosh, there's so much more that I didn't understand. And I have to go back and say that Morgan and I had an incredibly close relationship. As a matter of fact, when he was in China, we would Skype almost every day. And it wasn't because I was constantly calling him. He would call me to tell me what was going on in his life. He did so more than my girls ever did, although I'm very, very close with my girls. But having Morgan transition is definitely the most difficult thing that I've ever been through in my life. But at the same time, it is the thing that has happened in my life that has completely cracked open everything that I believed about anything. And I feel very, very grateful to him for being able to connect with me immediately. There was another thing that was very important about his transition, and being able to get that hug that I didn't understand until this year. And that came from Isabella Johnson. And she explained to me when I was speaking to her, we were doing a documentary, and I explained that I've always struggled with the fact that Chelsea transitioned immediately after she was born, and that maybe we didn't do enough. And I just wanted her to maybe explain a little bit about what she knew and what Chelsea was saying. And Chelsea explained to her that she transitioned immediately because she was going to be helping me to prepare me to start helping parents heal. But more importantly, when Morgan transitioned, she was there. She was the first person to meet Morgan. And I've heard this from other people as well. And she took his hand and guided him to me. So I always like to let parents know that if you don't get that immediately when your kids transition, it's normal. I mean, obviously, it's a very difficult thing for these kids to immediately be able to communicate with us.
Right.
But I was fortunate and unfortunate at the same time to have had Chelsea transition in 1991, and to be laying the groundwork for me to be able to be communicating with Morgan right away. And
so had you given much thought to the afterlife between the time that Chelsea transitioned and the time that Morgan transitioned? What were your beliefs before that?
Not at all. And my beliefs were, I did believe that we lived on in the afterlife. I never doubted that. And I also felt Chelsea with me. I always felt protected and guided by her, but it was a very different thing than with Morgan, because I was concentrating all of my efforts on making sure that Morgan was okay, making sure that my other two daughters were okay.
Sure.
And I must say that although her transition was incredibly difficult, the fact that it happened so early in her life was something that I think we're able to move forward. I know that so many women experience either miscarriages or deaths in childbirth or transitions in childbirth. And we're very fortunate a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, to be able to have children after. And I think that that helps us to move forward and to heal. So it wasn't something that I had to maybe really think about as much as when Morgan transitioned after Chelsea.
Yeah, but it sounds like you were, so after Morgan transition, you started Parents United in Loss. And tell us, how long after Morgan transition was it that you started that Facebook group?
Well, immediately I wanted to be able to connect with other parents who had that happen. And I thought that probably everyone was having the same experiences that I was, that their kids were speaking to them, that they were connecting with them, that they were hugging them. And I wanted to know what their experiences were. I went online and I found some bereavement groups, but none were talking about a connection with our kids. And so I started Parents United in Loss a week after Morgan transitioned. And I must say that when I started that group, I chose the wrong name completely, because loss has nothing to do with this whole process. We never, ever lose our kids. And so I tried to change the group name about a year later, and it had grown so much that the number in the group didn't allow me to change the name. And so luckily Facebook made adjustments, and as we went forward, it was possible. But Helping Parents Heal describes our group so much better than Parents United in Loss.
Yeah. Helping Parents Heal. I love it. The name just says exactly what it is. So you transitioned Parents United in Loss and Helping Parents Heal. That was after you met Mark Ireland, I believe, right?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey there, something I want to tell you about today. My podcast platform, Buzzsprout, has recently made it easier for me to allow you to support me financially. Go to www.grieftogrowth.com/subscribe. That's grief2growth.com/subscribe. And once you're there, you can sign up to support me financially. Now, you can do it for as little as $3 a month, or of course, as much as you'd like. If you do that, you'll get access to bonus episodes, and you'll see those in the regular feed. They'll have a lock on them. But when you become a subscriber, you'll actually get access to your own private feed, and you'll be able to listen to the regular podcast along with the bonus podcast for the subscribers. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for sharing the podcast. And I want to thank those of you who support me financially. Have a great day, and on to the episode.
Yes, and meeting Mark Ireland was amazing as well. We have a very synchronistic relationship, Mark and Susie and I, because of the fact that Brandon transitions in the McDowell mountain range of an asthma attack. And I only know of one other mother who's had her son transition on a mountain, although I'm sure that there are many others who are out there. Mm-hmm. And that was on Mount Fuji, actually, when he was in a high school program, an ambassador program when he was overseas. But anyway, I had connected with Suzanne Wilson, who's an amazing psychic medium. She had brought through Morgan a couple weeks after he transitioned without me being present. And that's another whole story. But she was supposed to come to do a reading at our home. And the week before, she was at a conference with Mark Ireland and with Jamie Clark. And it was an small afterlife conference. And she told Mark Ireland that she was meeting with me the next week. And he signed his book, Soul Shift, Finding Where the Dead Go, and gave her a copy to give to me when she met with me. So I read it in 2 days, and I was so excited, got together with him and spent a lot of time after he would come to our meetings and present. And in 2012, we actually formed the nonprofit Helping Parents Heal.
Yeah, and the story of how you met Suzanne, is another one of those, crazy events. And then Suzanne introduced you to Mark, and Mark, you said Mark signed his book for you. After my daughter Shayna passed, someone told me about Mark. I had never heard of Mark. It said, just send this guy an email. His son has transitioned. Maybe he can give you some help. So Mark sent me a copy of his book, and he and I exchanged emails. And that's how I got introduced to Helping Parents Heal. So someday we should all write a book about all these different synchronicities of how we all kind of came together. So Helping Parents.
And that's not all. That's not all. I mean, after that, you and Ty were coming out here for a vacation.
Yeah.
To Phoenix.
We had never been to Phoenix before. We always went to the beach. But after Shayna transitioned, my other daughter Kayla said, I want to do something completely different. Let's go to the desert. So we made arrangements to go to Phoenix, having no idea that you were there. Booked the house. This is before we even, I think, it had spoken to you. And we were just a few minutes from where you live. And that's where we met you and Ernie and Christine. And we decided to become, Helping Parents Heal leaders. So it's all, it's kind of almost impossible to believe it's not planned when you sit down and you think about all the things that had to happen to make all those things happen.
I agree. And Ernie is a board member of Helping Parents Heal. He's also a caring listener, as you are.
Yes.
And Christine, his wife, is just amazing. And he's written 2 books as well, which are just wonderful books, Quentin's Messages and Quentin's Legacy. So that was a wonderful breakfast. I was so excited that you guys wanted to move forward and become affiliate leaders. And oh my gosh, just think of everything that's happened since. It's pretty amazing.
It is. It really is. And we could talk all day about all the connections that we've all made in various places. So Helping Parents Heal is approximately 7 years old now. And how many members are there? How many chapters?
Well, it's actually more than, I consider it to be, because it really started in 2009. So it's almost 10 years old, because of the fact that the group transitioned. But there are almost 12,000 members, and we have members all over the world. We have them obviously in the United Kingdom, in Canada, and Australia, New Zealand. We have them all over Europe as well, in Russia, in Iran, in a lot of other countries throughout the world. And I feel really grateful to be able to make the connections with these parents who are all going through the same thing, and we've become one big family.
Yeah, it is like one big family. So, and then in the online group, which you mentioned earlier, that I run with Tracy, Susie, and Beth West, and my wife Tawana, we're at about, I think, 4,500 people now. And that group is obviously, very active. So there are other groups for bereaved parents, to use that term. And I just want to tell some of our listeners, you might notice that we use language that's different from other people. We don't say our children died. You very rarely hear one of our parents say our children died, because we don't believe anyone dies. Our kids still continue. So they transitioned. We don't call ourselves bereaved parents, even though we do go through grief like anybody else, but that's not what we choose to focus on. So Helping Parents Heal, how would you say we're different from some of the other groups that are out there?
Well, I love that you are talking about language, and I do want to just give a shout out to Suzanne Giesman for her wonderful phrase, shining light parents, because we had talked about this and decided that bereaved, I think they call it one of the saddest terms in the dictionary. It doesn't define us at all. We are definitely, as we move forward, our kids shine through us. And so we call ourselves shining light parents because of the fact that our kids are shining through us. And I truly believe that every bereavement group will start moving towards the way that we believe. But we believe that there is a connection with our kids, and that we can learn to communicate with them. And we communicate with them through meditation, through yoga, through healing, through psychic mediums in the beginning. Obviously, we might not be as skilled as they are at being able to communicate with our kids in the beginning. All of the very, very good psychic mediums believe that we can do the same thing that they can. And most of them offer mediumship courses as well as training to be able to connect with our kids ourselves. I also think that it's important to say that any bereavement group that you find will tell you that you can never heal from the passing of a child. And we believe totally differently. Yes. We believe that it is possible to heal from the passing of a child. And I think that that's something that's incredibly important to understand as a parent, because of the fact that our kids want us to know that. They want us to heal. They want us to move forward. And they're holding our hands as we do so. And they are sending us so much love. They're our biggest cheerleaders. They connect on the other side, and they also connect us from the other side. And every time we hold a meeting, they're all present with us. They're spending time with us when you're doing your online meetings. I know that all the kids are there as well.
Yeah.
When we have our in-person meetings, it's the same thing. They're spending time with us as well.
I think we just touched on something, Elizabeth, that's really key, because when Shayna first transitioned, I didn't believe it was possible to heal, and I'm not sure I wanted to heal. But the thing about helping parents heal, and the thing about the way that we do grief, is, a lot of the old grief model was to just get over it, to accept the fact that you're never going to see that person again. And I heard someone the other day, and I won't mention his name, he's a very well-known grief counselor. And I was very surprised to hear him say that he said to people, someone will say, ask him, how long will I grieve? And he said, how long will your kid be dead? And first of all, he used that word. And secondly, if you have that attitude that my kid is dead and gone, then I think it is impossible to get over it. You can't heal from grief. The difference with us is we think our kids are still here. They're still an active part of our life. We will see them again, but they're seeing us right now. And I had a great reading from a medium just last night. And Shayna came through and said she's still active in our lives. She mentioned Kayla's college graduation, which was just a few weeks ago. Shayna's been transitioned for 4 years. But every time she comes through, she tells us, I'm still there. I'm still with you. I'm with you. She's with me right now. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about her. So I think that's how we can heal. That's why we can heal. And that's why we can be different from other groups, and we can offer hope to people.
Exactly. And, of course, she's still right here. But more importantly, I think that that our kids are actually even more powerful where they are right now. And I truly believe in a soul plan. And I believe that this was all supposed to happen the way that it happened. I think the kids have a little wiggle room in terms of how they transition. But I know in terms of Morgan that he told me before he left for China the second time that he wasn't coming home. When we were packing in his room, he said, Mom, I don't think I'm coming home from China this time. And I told him, Morgan, you have all the credits. You don't need to be over in China. Just stay here. And he said, no, Mom, it's going to be okay. And I think he truly believed that in his soul, that it was going to be okay. And it is okay, because I know that he's with me all the time. And I also know that when he transitioned, 2 days later, when we went to see a psychic medium, the first thing she told us was that Morgan was saying that if it hadn't happened at the base camp of Mount Everest, it would have happened on the I-10 coming from the University of Arizona up to Cave Creek. And he would have had a car accident. So there's really nothing that we could do to change the way that our kids, the fact that our kids have transitioned.
Yeah.
The one thing that we can do is to understand, as you say, that they're still right here with us. And just a shout out again to Suzanne Giesman for that incredible book that she wrote called Still Right Here, which is so appropriate because our kids are always with us. And I also want to say, in terms of Shayna and her telling you that she was at the graduation, George Anderson has said that when parents transition and he brings them through after they've met up with their kids, they explain to him that it's as though not a second has passed since the last time that we saw them. And the reason that happens is that we are interacting with them all the time. And I believe that we spend a lot of time with our kids in our sleep, in our dreams. And a lot of times we don't remember it, but we go to sleep, we spend time with them, we wake up, and we feel good. And we don't know why, but it's because of the fact that we have spent time with them. I think that if we're able to maybe keep a notebook by our beds and write in it as soon as we wake up every morning, we'll remember a little better about the dream visits that we get. But I do know that they're able to connect with us through dreams, but also in general, just being able to keep us moving forward and keep us positive.
Well, and being open to our kids, yeah, through dreams. But, what I found for me, I still talk to Shayna all the time during the day. I say good morning to her every morning. First thing when I wake up, I say good night before I go to bed. I've got a giant picture of her on our landing or our stairwell going upstairs to the bedroom. So when I come out of my bedroom, the first thing I see is this big picture of Shayna. I tell her good morning. So she's an active part of my day. And she's a big reason why she's the only reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I think that, that gets reinforced to helping parents heal too. With this group, it becomes normal because everybody in the group is kind of having the same experience. So that's what I found to be so healing about being, part of this about family, I would say.
Yes, and that's wonderful that you talk to her all the time. And I talk to Morgan all the time as well. And I always say thank heavens for Bluetooth because I'm always talking in my car. So people probably think I'm a little crazy, but I feel very, very lucky to be able to know that he's listening to me and sometimes to feel him hug me around the seat. I can feel his arms around me as I'm talking to him. So anyway, there are so many signs that our kids send us. And I feel so fortunate on the online group, especially that parents are constantly posting all of the communication that they get from their kids, all of the orbs that they get in the pictures, all of the little orbs that bounce around in the videos that they're taking when they're on vacation, all of the different license plates that they see that are the favorite numbers of the children or their names or dates or important things that are on those license plates, as well as songs that come on in their cars, on the radio at very important times, and as well as butterflies or dragonflies or hummingbirds that they see that might fly around them, that won't leave them alone. And it's important for us to be able to acknowledge those signs and to say thank you. And so that relationship that you're talking about goes on throughout the day. You're right. When you're hiking and you see a group of deer and they stay there and watch you, and you know that your daughter or your son has something to do with it. There are just so many, I'm getting goosebumps as I say this, there are so many wonderful things that they do, so many gifts that we call collateral beauty that they send our way to let us know that they're with us all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to go back to something you said earlier and kind of reinforce it when you talked about, Morgan saying that he might not be coming back from China. And I was talking with someone just yesterday, and her daughter transitioned at the age of 20. Very similar to Shayna, just went to bed and didn't wake up. But she said her daughter would say to her, and often, I'm not going to live into my 20s. And Shayna would make comments like, I remember she cried when she was about 10 years old because she said, I don't want to grow up. She didn't want to develop breasts. She's like, I don't want to do all that stuff. And she would say things like, I always want to be, a kid. So we look back and we realize our kids maybe knew at a soul level, at a higher level, that they weren't going to be here for what we consider a full lifetime. And I think having that knowledge helps us accept, what it is we're doing. And we know that there is a reason for it. I mean, not just, it's like this was a fate that was handed to us by God, or we were punished. And again, I've heard a lot of parents whose children have passed. Am I being punished? Is it something that I did wrong? And it's not. I mean, it's for a purpose. So that's, again, another thing that I've gotten from helping parents heal that's really helped me to go forward with Shayna.
Yes, and she is with you every step of the way. And you're right. It's something that was decided beforehand. And I know that in the first 2 years after Morgan transitioned, it was very difficult for me to talk about soul plans because I felt like it sounded so brutal that I might have written this soul contract with him before we ever were born. But I truly believe, after all of the things that I've seen, and the 12,000 kids who are members of this group, that there's no way that this couldn't have all been planned ahead of time. There are so many synchronicities and so many things that have happened. And so many parents who tell me that their children have let them know that they're not going to be around for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so it all does make incredible sense to me now. And as I say, I think that they are much more alive than we are. They're home and we're still in school. And so we're doing everything necessary to be able to make them proud, and moving through our daily lives, doing whatever we can to possibly help others. I mean, I think that that's the easiest way to heal, is to immediately start on that journey to help others however we can. And it doesn't have to be by being an affiliate leader, although we do have a lot of incredible parents who have become affiliate leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to reach a hand out and help someone else helps us so much more than it does them.
Yeah, absolutely. So Helping Parents Heal, we're an international organization at this point. You said about, 12,000 members, I think you said.
Yeah.
So where do you see Helping Parents Heal go in the future? I'm guessing when you started Parents United and Lost, you didn't see, being here in 10 years, but where do you see Helping Parents Heal going in the future?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi there. I'm really excited to tell you about my latest ebook. It's 4 lessons that you can learn from the near-death experience without going through all the trouble of dying to learn them. I've been studying NDEs for several years now. I am completely convinced that not only are they 100% real, but that there's some very universal wisdom that we can get from the near-death experience. And I've distilled that down in this book into 4 short lessons. And I've also given you all the reasons why I believe that NDEs are absolutely real. So go to www.grieftogrowth.com/NDE lessons to pick it up for free. www.grieftogrowth.com/NDE lessons. I hope you enjoy it.
Well, back when I started Parents United and Lost, I had a reading, as I said, with Suzanne Wilson about a month later, and she told me that Morgan said that this was going to be an international organization.
Oh, wow.
I didn't really necessarily believe it at the time, but I thought it was great that it was going to be helping people. But I think that what would be nice is to be able to reach more siblings. We have a smaller siblings group right now. I think that they, as I've explained in the past, have a double healing to happen. They have to first heal their parents, and then they have to heal themselves. And their experience is very isolating for them. I think that every child who's experienced the passing of a sibling feels like they're the only ones in the whole wide world who are like that, just as we do too. But sure. They also have this huge responsibility, especially if it's an only child after they feel the burden of being that child, that they have to take extra care of themselves because their parents are so terrified that something will happen to them. Mm-hmm. And then also that they have to be able to be there for their parents and help them. I believe that these kids are, as we are too, gifted in communication with the afterlife. I think that having something like this happen breaks them open as well. Mm-hmm. And they have a lot of experiences that kind of are scary to them. Communication, not necessarily with their siblings right away. My eldest daughter, Alix, unfortunately was getting lots and lots of kids from Helping Parents Heal who were communicating with her. Wow. It wasn't necessarily a good thing because they were trying to show her how they passed to be able to maybe get her to communicate with their parents, because they saw that she had this light that shines, which I think that Kayla has as well. With all of these kids who have experienced this, it creates a situation that they are much more open to being communicated with. And so having a group to be able to explain what's happening, to allow these kids to know that they have a guardian angel who will be with them for the rest of their lives, mm-hmm. who is helping them in every aspect of their lives, and that they actually have a gift that no other child has who hasn't experienced the passing of a sibling, in that they can experience incredible things in their lives. They can push themselves farther than other kids can, and they will become some of the healers of the future because of the fact that they've lived through this, and they'll never experience anything that could be worse than what they're experiencing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. I think I hate the word surviving, but the children that are still here, the siblings, have a mission kind of like we do. And I've seen Kayla, my daughter, already kind of take on that mantle. She changed her major into psychology. She wants to work with children now. And so, Shayna is still a very, very active part of her life, and will influence her the way she's influencing me and my wife, Tawana.
Well, and I have to go a step further too.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that Kayla is able to do that is because of the fact that you guys both are so aware of the fact that Shayna is still a huge part of your lives.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that is important for parents to understand is that being able to communicate and connect with our kids is important, not just for us and for our healing, but also for our kids who are here, because they are equally important, in terms of their lives and their trajectory, as our kids who have passed, and creating a foundation and throwing ourselves into doing things for that child who passed. While they're very, very important, it's also important to never lose focus of the fact that those kids who are here are just incredibly important too. And as I say, they are going to become the healers and the positive influences on our society as they move forward.
Yeah, the way I look at it, Morgan and Chelsea are still doing their thing on the other side, just like Shayna's doing her thing on the other side, but we have to do our thing here. And so I wouldn't say either role is necessarily more important. We need each other. And so we just kind of split the mission up, right? So they go over there and they do their thing from there, and we do our thing from here. And then, one day we'll all be back together again.
Yes, exactly.
One thing I want to let people know about you, Elizabeth, is you're just like this amazing person. I mean, people that are watching this on YouTube can see you kind of shine, and you always have this great smile on your face, and you're always so high energy. And you just give tirelessly to helping parents heal. I don't know how many hours a week you work on helping parents heal, but it's a lot. And you're doing this interview with me at 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday. And I appreciate you squeezing this into your busy schedule, but I just want to give you respect for and appreciation for what you've done, and not only starting this organization, but seeing it through. And still, the newsletter, I know, takes a ton of your time, and doing the tributes, you're still very hands-on with all that. So I want to let everyone know, what you contribute to helping parents heal.
Thank you so much, Brian. It is such an honor. You can't imagine. I mean, I think that you understand this too. Being able to have things to do every single morning when I wake up and I'm able to post those tributes, I feel so honored to do so. And I feel useful. I feel like my life has meaning in doing so. Being able to teach the yoga for healing grief that I do also gives my life meaning. Being able to talk with parents, one of the really exciting things that I get to do. And I know that this sounds strange, but when I know of a new parent who needs to be able to be spoken to and understand a little bit more about where their kids are, and I feel so uplifted when I'm able to talk to a parent and let them know that their kids are okay, and let them know that they're also hanging out with Chelsea and Morgan and with Shayla, with all of these incredible kids, and they're having so much fun over there. They're having a blast. I mean, I think that if parents understood a little bit more about what it is like over there. I mean, they're obviously doing lots of stuff. They're going to school, they're living their lives, they're helping us, they're doing so many different things. Mm-hmm. But most importantly, they're connecting and every time that I meet a new parent, I know that their child has already connected with Chelsea and Morgan, and I know that they're together and that they are actually with us when we have a meeting. And so those things bring me so much joy. And it is true that Helping Parents Heal has grown a lot, and it's hard for me to give up any aspect of what I'm doing. The newsletter takes a long time.
Oh, yeah.
If we figure out a better format, I think it'll be a lot less time. And if we have any wonderful graphic artists who want to take that over, I would love to be able to let someone else do that, because not because of the fact that I don't want to do it, but because of the fact that I know that it gives anyone who's able to do something like that a lot of joy and fulfillment in doing that. So I am happy to, because there's always more to do, to give someone else a chance to be able to do those things. And I just want to say that you guys, with your online group, I was scrolling through the different presenters that you've had in the past, is it 3 years now that you've been doing this?
About 3 years, yeah.
It's amazing how many people you've interviewed and how many people are helping other parents to heal, as well as the fact that there's this archive of all of those interviews on the Helping Parents Heal online group, which is just wonderful for parents to be able to go there and see these people who are so gifted in the afterlife. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, the Helping Parents Heal online group, a couple of things you just touched on. It's so great when, as you said, someone new is coming in and we have a presenter that tells them, because parents wonder, what's my kid doing? Are they okay? They transition by suicide, or they're being punished, things like that. And we get to reinforce over and over again, all your worst fears are not true. Where they are is better than you can even imagine. And as a parent, number one thing we want is for our kids to be happy. So when we can tell parents, and after every meeting, I get people saying, thank you for letting me know that my son is okay, or thank you for letting me know my daughter is okay. And the presenters are so generous. I mean, we've had people that charge literally thousands of dollars an hour for their time to speak, and they donate their time to the group. So just to catch everybody up, the Helping Parents Heal online group we're talking about is a Facebook group. And you can find us on Facebook. Just search for Helping Parents Heal online. There's also the Helping Parents Heal main group, which is the main group for people that want to join. But the online group is where we have the meetings. And there's, as Elizabeth said, there's an archive going back about 3 years now of some of the best healers and mediums and grief counselors and grief experts and near-death experiencers, which I think is another great way, to help people understand that life goes on. And we've got those all in the archives, and they're freely available for anybody that joins the group.
And it's wonderful. And I feel that, these people who do give their time for free are incredible. Obviously, you've had some of the biggest names in the afterlife community. But one thing that I just thought was amazing was James Van Prague, who's come on twice now, actually gave a book to every single person who attended one of those online meetings, and made sure that he got the addresses of each of the parents and sent over 100 books to parents throughout the country and maybe even the world. I'm not really sure, but that was also amazing. So you guys are doing so much for these parents, and just to know that they are able to go on to those meetings and see that they're going to be okay. I mean, that was one of the main things that I needed to see, was to see someone 6 years down the line and see where they were. Going back to other bereavement groups, you can go to a meeting of another bereavement group and sit in the meeting and have someone say there that they're 14 years down the line and that nothing has changed for them, that they are exactly in the same place and that they will always be sad for the rest of their lives. And I think that a lot of times we believe that this is the way that we're supposed to grieve because we don't want to move forward thinking that we're not going to be taking our kids with us.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
Being able to understand through your meetings that, as well as in-person meetings, I feel very grateful here in Phoenix. We've had some incredible speakers here as well. But being able to also get readings from mediums during your meetings, because a lot of times, even James Van Praagh was doing readings as well.
Yes.
That's incredibly helpful, not just for the parents who get the readings, but also for other parents who are attending the meetings, knowing that this is real, because they see the reaction of the parents who are getting the readings. They understand that this is something that there's no way that these psychic mediums could have known, and it changes their lives as well. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it's funny because just when James was on just a couple weeks ago, James Van Praagh, one of the mothers a couple days before it typed in one of our online groups that she'd had readings with mediums, but her son wasn't coming through and she didn't know why. And she's like, am I doing something wrong? Or so she was really kind of, upset about that. So she's on the meeting with James, and James was only able to read a few people, and they're very quick readings, but she was one of the people that he read. So a couple of days after she'd gotten that, I said, well, you wrote this before the meeting with James. How do you feel now? And she said she got exactly what she needed from James at exactly the time she needed it. So that's very gratifying, when that type of things happens. And because of Helping Parents Heal, James was, generously donated his time to us, and it worked out great for her.
Well, and it would have been a lot more expensive if she'd had to go to James Van Praagh. So it was very, very sweet of him to do that. And that's one of the things I have to tell you. Make sure that you send those to me for the newsletter, because that's the kind of thing that's always wonderful to put in the newsletter. So yeah. I really, truly feel great. And going back to the newsletter, in case your listeners might be interested, it's really nice to have an archive of all of the newsletters going back to 2012 when it started, because of the fact that we put validation stories from parents in the newsletter. So either from psychic mediums, either things that have happened in our lives that show us that our kids are with us, or different life events that have happened talking about our kids. Those are all a big part of the newsletter, as well as just events that are happening in terms of all of our affiliate groups and things like that. But I feel grateful to have that space on the website, because I know that people go back. I just had a mom contact me today and asked me about an article that was in a newsletter about a year ago. And she asked, is that still available? And I said, yeah, just go to the website. It's right on there. So it's possible for people to look for those. And going back to the tributes too, I wanted to just kind of distinguish between the Helping Parents Heal online group, which is incredible because you do hold those meetings and you have a lot of conversations in terms of parents talking to each other. The main group also has conversations between parents, and that's where I post the tributes every day. So the tributes now are kind of fun, because when you click on them, the full picture of the child pops up, as well as a description, and it's something that you can share yourself on Facebook. So before, because our group is
it's a closed
private group. I can't closed. I was trying to find the word. I was thinking private. Yeah. Closed group. It wasn't possible to share those tributes. Now, if you want to, you can copy the URL on our website and then just post it onto your page. And that way, people will be able to see about your child. And everybody's been asking me about that from the very beginning. So that's now functionality, which I'm really excited about from our new website.
It's very nice. Yes, we just upgraded the website. It looks great, and hopefully it's making things a little bit easier for you, because, again, you're doing all this stuff manually, and the group's grown, to a lot. So speaking about the things you're doing, I know another thing you're working on is the second Helping Parents Heal conference. I know we had the first one a year ago this past April. That was a huge success. About 500 people, I think it was. And the second one's coming up in Charlotte? Where is it?
In Charleston.
Charleston,
South Carolina, yeah.
So
that's funny.
So everybody, again, Helping Parents Heal is helpingparentsheal.org. That's where you can find the website, which you can find information about the conference. But tell us about the conference that's coming up.
Well, the conference is led by Irene Bouvalidis. She's our conference director, and she's doing a fabulous job. And it will be in Charleston, South Carolina in April of 2020. And it's going to be over 3 days. And it's from the 16th to the 20th of April. But we're going to have 30 presenters this time. There were 25 at the last conference. We can welcome up to about 1,000 parents. So we're expecting it to be much bigger. We already have about 450 parents who have signed up. And it is, let's see, it's less than a year, but there's still a lot of time for people to sign up. Oh, yeah. We were fortunate to be able to have Suzanne Wilson organize a scholarship for that conference. She worked with 15 psychic mediums who gave free readings, and we did a raffle, and she raised money, so we were able to give those scholarships to 24 parents who will be able to come, who might not have been able to otherwise, which is very exciting. And we're expecting some really exciting new speakers this time. We have Suzanne Giesman, Suzanne Wilson, who came last time. We have Eben Alexander, Karen Newell, who is his partner, as well as Raymond Moody and Dr. Mary Neal, as well as we have Jeffrey Olson, Dr. Jeff O'Driscoll, as well as a lot of other psychic mediums. We have a lot of platform readings that are going to happen, such as Mark Anthony's. There are a whole bunch of other psychic mediums who have kindly, everyone is donating their time to come to this conference as well, the way that they do for the online meetings, which is very exciting. And we have healers who are coming as well to be able to help parents understand how to heal, to better heal themselves. A lot of these healers are also psychic, such as Deborah Martin, who was just recently on your program, and she'll be helping parents understand how to better heal themselves, which is really important. So because healing is not just physical, it's emotional and spiritual. So she works on all those different levels. Anyway, I have explained that the last conference was a true love fest. It was so exciting to see all of these parents that we've been communicating with online for such a long time, and to be able to hug them in person, and then to be able to have the angel wash at the end of the conference that was held by Dr. Pitstick. That's just an amazing event. And so that was so exciting, because the Embassy Suites was expecting to have a bunch of sad parents moping around and maybe crying throughout the weekend. And I didn't see anyone crying. I thought that it was just the most amazing time. So I don't know about you. What do you think?
I have to put in a plug for the conference. We went, my wife and I went to the one in April last year in Scottsdale. And you might think a conference of grieving parents is going to be, as you said, a bunch of sad people sitting around crying. But we were so boisterous and laughing and stuff in the lobby. People were like, who's that group? Who are the people over there in the corner? It's like, oh, those are all the bereaved parents. But being with like-minded people is so uplifting. And at the end of that weekend, and it culminates with something called an angel wash, which you really can't even describe to people, but it's just you receive unconditional love from a whole bunch of strangers. I'll just leave it with that in a way that you've never experienced before. So if you are thinking about going to the conference, you should definitely go. It's a weekend that it'll change your life. It'll change your whole perspective. Being around people that believe what we believe, and to say that our kids passing was not the end of our life, and you touched earlier on the phrase, again, we talk about language is really important, moving on and moving forward. And I remember talking with Suzanne Giesman. She was writing, I think it was when she was writing her book, and she wrote something to me and she used the phrase moving on. And that phrase just doesn't work for me, because the image I have is Shayna is here in my past and I'm moving on. The phrase moving forward to me implies I'm moving forward with her and towards her even. So that's the way I see it. It's not like I've left her in my past. I hear people say, well, I'll never see her again. I talk to Shayna, like I said, I talk to her every day. And I'll see her, soon.
Well, and I think that moving on is similar to get over it. That's another phrase that we should never, just for your listeners who are not, luckily are not shining light parents, knowing that those two phrases are not things that should be in anyone's vocabulary, because we don't get over it, but we move forward with our kids, as you say. And as I say, I almost feel as though Morgan is on a study abroad program still. Maybe you feel the same way about Shayna.
Absolutely do.
And we can constantly be with him whenever we need to, but that he's going to have a lot of exciting stuff to tell us when we get back together. But he's completely fine, just as she is, and Chelsea is, and I also just wanted to quickly give two other names of keynote speakers that we have: Maureen Hancock and David Kessler, as well as lots and lots of other amazing speakers who are going to be there. But I didn't want to leave them out in the discussion, because they're going to be amazing as well.
Yeah, well, the lineup is incredible. I'm looking forward to it. Well, Elizabeth, we're coming to the end of our time, and I want to value your time. I know you're really busy. I want to thank you for doing this with me this early Saturday morning. It's great having you on. Thank you for helping parents heal. Literally saved thousands of people's lives. That's the literal truth. So I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you. I feel the same way about you, Brian, and you've literally saved thousands of people's lives as well. And I feel so grateful that you are one of the heads of our online group, which is just an amazing resource for parents. And I'm excited to have been interviewed by you, and it wasn't a bother at all. I just enjoy so much being able to speak to you. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good day.
You too.
Well, that's it for another episode of Grief to Growth. This is your host, Brian Smith. Reach out to me anytime at grieftogrowth.com. That's GRIEF, 2, growth.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll be back with you with another podcast soon. Hi there. I hope you enjoyed this latest episode of the podcast, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. What questions came up for you? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? I invite you to visit us at grieftogrowth.circle.so. That's grief, 2, growth.circle.so to continue the conversation with me and with other listeners. It's a space to sound off, to share reactions, and to go deeper into the topics from the show. I look forward to chatting more, and I hope to see you there.